Welcome to the Mix Minus podcast. Matt McQueenie here with cousin Louis Benedetto.
Hello, everybody.
How you doing, Lou? We are here in Clayton, New York. A weird confluence of events that has brought us here. We're both in Airbnbs. We ended up in Airbnbs about 2 or 3 houses down from each other.
300 feet away.
Just totally wild. This is your first Airbnb too?
This is my first Airbnb experience, yeah, with the Superhost.
It's pretty amazing.
Yeah.
Superhost?
Yeah.
Do you have the whole house yourself?
The whole house to ourselves. Whole house. It's kind of small. It's on the smaller side, but we're up here without kids, just my wife and I, so it's actually pretty perfect.
Pretty wild.
Yeah.
So, it really is funny the way those things happen. I've almost felt as though, I think the last time I saw you in person was at my wedding.
Is that right?
Almost 8 years ago, long. I think, or maybe, I think we're coming up on 8.
Yeah, because I can assimilate to Mel. That's the first and only time I've met Mel, so it must have been that long ago.
Which is wild. Social media kind of covers the updates.
Right.
You kind of see each other age. But all those years, it's unbelievable. But here we are in Clayton, and it's almost felt like we're in a sitcom. Like all of a sudden, there's a lot of distance, and then all of a sudden that distance is closed up, and you're a couple houses down, just dropping in. Like it's totally wild. And then
it's been great.
To add to it, you actually grew up in this town for about 6 years?
Yeah. I grew up here from right around the late ages of 11 through 16. Yeah. Kind of the bulk of my adolescence up here, so I have a lot of close friends. Some bonds that I created up here with some friends that have just lasted a lifetime. So,
what's it been like being back here? Is this the first time you've literally been back in?
This is my first time back in Clayton in 13 years. Yeah, and my last experience up here was one of my good friend's weddings, Tony Agliano's wedding, a long time ago. And we had the reunion last night, and it's just been a whirlwind of emotions seeing all these people from middle school / high school, and the people, and the adults that they've become, the families that they've built, the careers that they've built. It's been really something to see. So
I think the craziest part of aging is I tell this story a lot about going out to Arizona and living with you and another guy, and just how informative the experience was for the positive and the negative, but the kind of things you learn in life. But it's amazing that is 15 years ago. And you think about us living in a fairly nice home with a pool, 3 bedrooms, everything, really no responsibilities whatsoever. Yeah. And then you juxtapose that with where we sit now.
Yeah. Flash forward 15 years. Where will we be in 15 years from now, Matt?
Will we be in another Airbnb here in Clayton?
Same bad place, same bad channel, or is it going to be, the other side of the world type thing,
It's unbelievable. So do you ever think about that? Like that 15-year jump, or even for you, it could be a 7-year jump.
It's pretty significant in both of our cases, right? You can't really plan 15 years in the future. You can, make immediate goals, and you can make plans for, long-term goals. I want to have a wife. I want to have kids. I want to do this. I want to do that, and all that. But you can never really put, the fine touches to it until you go through those experiences, But you met a beautiful wife, I met a beautiful wife, and things happen. Things kind of, go off from there, right? And it's just been, time of my life, the last 15 years. The experiences I had with you in Phoenix really helped shape the adult that I needed to be honest with you, so thank you for that.
It was a good life, though.
Setting me straight, for what I was back then to the person that I've become now,
Yeah, I remember, I think we came in on a New Year's Eve or thereabouts, 2003, going into 2004. And my brother drove out with me, and we showed up at an apartment you were living in. And you were just like wake and bake all the way, and
no hold back, man. Let it all out here. I'm sure my parents will listen to this. Thank you. But how quickly you actually really didn't want that.
And how quickly you were able to transfer. away from it?
I think I was on the fence. I knew a lot of what I was doing was, stupid stuff, right? And as college kids do, and post high school college kids do, and I was kind of looking for a way out, but I figured the people I'm with, the community and the culture that I was kind of building for myself, this is what we do, and when you kind of came out there and you said, this is not what you want to do it yourself.
You don't have to.
There are people out there that are not doing this, believe it or not, and you need to get on board with what they're doing, Yeah. And that kind of, it helped me realize, and I had built that relationship with John Schulenberg. I had moved in directly with him right after that, and it was similar with him, but to a very lesser degree. It was a transition. It was a good transition to make. But I did make a conscious decision at that point in my life to, hey, get your SH together. I don't know what kind of podcast this is.
No, it's all right. We can go. We can go where we're going. Yeah, absolutely.
Get your shit together. And I made a conscious. I remember having a conversation with my dad in John's apartment. I said, you know what? I don't smoke weed anymore. That's just how it is. I'm just not going to do it anymore. That's just the decision I made in my mind, and I stuck with it. Surprisingly, Surprisingly, I stuck with it because there was opportunities in that apartment as well to continue on a similar path. And unfortunately, I chose a different one altogether. So,
do you ever think about what it is that makes you decide that, though? Because whether somebody comes in and helps you see another way, you still have to want to do it yourself. Like what keeps us from being addicts, or because they go.
Just to be clear, I'm not against marijuana users. Marijuana smokers. Where to each their own. But in my experience, there's what drew the line in my mind was there's a difference between use and abuse, right? And to use it, it's fine. If medical conditions, and if it's just how you want to, get down on Friday and Saturday nights, cool, go for it, man. It's it's legal in a good percentage of states nowadays,
Absolutely.
And that's fine. And there's good reasons why it's legal. It's if you can keep your life together doing it, go for it. But in my experience, it was more for the sales aspect, for the go to Costco, get a good load and let it last for a long time type thing. And it was more of that type of opportunity. And there was morning, after breakfast, before lunch, after lunch, before dinner, after dinner. And it was very much the difference in my terms. It was the difference of use and abuse, basically.
Yeah, it's almost when we would, because we really went into working out a lot around that period of time, because you just have time. I mean, I always say it was like a reverse retirement, in that I came out of college, you guys were sort of in college, but you have sort of restaurant jobs, so it's nighttime work, and then the day is just yours. You get up around 10. I mean, you look back now with kids and you go, wow, you just wish you could get a taste at that time. You could get a taste of your future, so you could come back and appreciate that present a little more. But you'd get up 9, 10, read, coffee, get a nice breakfast, go work out for like an hour and a half.
That really helped transition me. The routine that we set up together, and that, I lived that routine for a very long time after that. And I can tell you, there were very good habits and very good, building blocks that were put in place that I used for the rest of my life, because, I did train and I did work out before that. But when you can fill your time with positive things, positive growth and things like that, it's not just a physical stimulant, it's a mental stimulant as well. And it can really help shape the person you want to be, right?
Absolutely.
Because I can tell you, like we were talking, telling Mel last night, I would take the best naps. Because you wake up, you use that morning creativity, you get through coffee, you get through breakfast, you get through a workout, you get through lunch, and then a protein shake, and then you get that afternoon nap when you don't have kids and you're working nights, and you can just feel your body being good to itself and replenishing everything that it needs to replenish. And those types of workouts and those types of circuits I put myself through, up until when I had kids, and the energy levels were there. I always made time throughout my PF Chang's career, throughout throughout a lot of my life. I can remember I wake up, brush my teeth, go to the gym, do my thing, get on back to it, it's just that repetition, that muscle memory, repetition you build in your own habits.
Yeah, it's really crazy when you think about the fact of how open the schedule was and how closed it is now. But I mean, you have four kids. I have two. Different challenges along the way. Your youngest at this point is like Liam, 4.
Yeah.
I have the newborn aspect, but there's a part of you though that doesn't feel like you would trade it. I mean, because it's brutal.
Yeah.
The schedule is brutal. Yeah. Your life is no longer yours. This is not a PSA against having children at all. But you are on a train now.
Right.
That is not stopping or slowing down. And
as he looks at the baby monitor in his peripheral, for example,
like everything about your being becomes devoted to these little things, and you're no longer even close to the person you were before. But when you were the person before, you might look ahead to this if someone told you about it and go, oh my God, I don't want any part of that. But once you transform into it and you actually have these birds in the hand, you wouldn't trade it, but you do. It's hard to get that balance though.
Yeah, it is. And you put it right on the head, is you wouldn't trade it for anything. You'll consider trading it, but then you
trade it for a weekend, for a little trip.
5 minutes. It's like, oh geez, something's going wrong. Whatever. Yeah. What am I going to do? What am I going to do? It's like, you know what? I built this. Yeah. This is mine. Mm-hmm. This is my kingdom to run. With my wife, right? And it's the responsibilities that you have kind of become you. And from the daycare drop-offs to the getting the kids to school on time, to the after-school activities, to
just the way you wake up. You don't wake up fresh, ever.
Right? And the way you reprimand your kids, and the way you put your kids to bed. It is who you are. We are the habits that we form. And it's like you said, it can seem at times like a runaway train, but it's a very exciting train to be on.
Yeah. So we did maybe, I think it was 15 years ago. This month we went to Europe on a backpacking trip. It was wild because I left and we had planned to do this, and somehow we put this trip together. I mean, I don't want to give us too much credit, but it was pretty amazing the way we assembled this pretty crazy trip with the Euro passes and the overnight trains, and you would have thought we were travel agents. I mean, it was pretty well done.
Well, credit to you on that, because I wouldn't have been able to plan something like that for myself at that point in my life. That was 2004.
I think so.
15 years ago.
Yeah,
that was
right about
when I was
time.
In the midst of being an idiot in my younger years. So I would have never been able to A, set up that goal, B, plan that goal, C, execute that goal. I kind of put a lot of the planning and the the engineering of that plan on you, and I paid my way.
I don't know why we did it. I mean, it was always something that you would think about wanting to do, but I don't know why we were so driven to do that trip.
I think you were pretty excited about it, and I could kind of feel that coming off of you, and you asked me to go, and I couldn't say no. I really couldn't.
I mean, it was a solid 2 weeks. I mean, and I just remember getting on that plane and being like, all right, I guess we'll see. I guess we'll see you there.
Closer to 3 weeks, I believe.
I think it might have been.
It was 15 days on the Eurorail. On that, it was a 15-day Eurorail pass itself, right? And then I got stuck in France a couple days.
Oh my God, that was unbelievable.
So for me, it was a lot closer to 3 weeks.
Well, we started in Paris, and then we went down through Italy, up back through Italy, and then Vienna, and then a few stops in Germany. I just remember because you usually do a red eye going east. So it was a red eye, and I just remember getting on the plane, and you had to get on the plane by yourself, and it's like, all right, I guess we'll see each other there. And I remember getting off the plane, and then I'm like, oh, how are we going to find Lou? And you had like a bit, and I hear, what up, Jersey? And you had like a bandana on. And I was like, oh boy, there we are. Okay. But it was pretty amazing because I don't know. I mean, whether you talked about we have kids, we have all this experience now. There's a certain naivety that at that age we were able to do it. I don't know if I would be comfortable enough to do that trip at this age now.
Oh,
I'm
man.
talking just as
the two of us,
two
no
people.
Chance. No chance.
You become so set in your ways.
My wife would leave me.
Well, yeah. I mean, it's just about, but like, I think actually who you are, like you almost couldn't do it. It was a perfect time to try to do that. I mean, sleeping overnight, just hiking through crazy amounts of stuff.
Well,
and
15 years ago was when there was that buzz term going around called reverse retirement.
Yeah.
Right. And it was when you get out of college, go take a trip because you want to be able to do it in your younger years. You don't want to work your whole life and then go try to backpack through Europe at the tender age of 65 years old. Kudos. I mean, I say that in jest because my parents are closer to 65 and they just got back from Rome and Greece a couple years ago, so I mean, it can be done, right? Yeah. But we're two strapping young, early 20-year-old men here, hiking around the country, and we had a great time doing it.
I lost a lot of weight on that trip too.
Oh my gosh.
All the walking. I remember I got home and I think I was like 12 or 15 pounds less because you got this heavy backpack and it was just the weather was so hot and it was constant walking and really not a ton of like eating because it's not like you can overeat in Europe. I remember when we went to that hostel in Paris. Yeah. And it's like, this is an experience. We're in rooms
with jelly.
Yeah. Oh my God. Every morning you get that dark coffee and and you're like, okay, this is breakfast. And it was just a half a baguette with jelly and butter.
And you just take half the stick and you put it in your backpack and you just kind of nosh on it throughout the day because it's such good bread.
You just go up and down through Paris, meeting people. Yeah. It was really an amazing thing to have done. You almost think it was a different person who did that.
One thing I take away from it, and is kind of nominal. It's not like a life lesson or anything. Is the accidents in the parking lots. Like you'd be sitting in your hostel and you hear somebody crash into a car outside, and it's because they're parallel parking because the parking is horrible. They're parallel parking. They hit the person behind them. They don't even know. They just walk right off, and it happens several times on the trip. If I recall. And it's like they just have a different reverence for like automobiles and car insurance, I believe.
There was in my MBA class, we were doing a case study on HSBC, and they were the world's bank. Yeah. And what they did was they would have these commercials that to show they were the world's bank, it would show that they understand the different cultures. And there was one commercial that's to that effect. It had a German guy in a Mercedes, and he's backing in carefully and then accidentally taps like this little car behind, and he was like, oh. So in their culture, you don't do stuff like that. He wrote up a note, left it on the dashboard, and then the guy who was in that car shows up later in one of these little like smart cars, and picks the thing up and is like, oh, throws it away, and then just starts to proceed to bash the cars to get out.
Oh my gosh! Yeah.
But I mean, it was, just the sleeper trains. Yeah. The anticipation of that without never having done that. Yeah. Yeah. It was amazing to just drop in and like everything went to plan pretty well. I mean, it's sort of like we look at this 15 years later, not having done Airbnb. The Airbnb worked out. I'm sure there's bad experiences with that, but you do your research. It's like anything at any point in time. Do your research.
How crucial would Airbnb have been back then? Oh my gosh!
Wow! But the hostel experience was
really awesome.
Cool. Yeah, because it was very much like Airbnb where each place had its own personality, and you would just drop in and almost be excited to see what this one was going to be like. Yeah, that one in Paris was really cool. We actually stayed there.
The Aloha, hello and goodbye. Because we stayed there at the beginning, we stayed there at the end.
Stay there at the end, yeah.
It was very iconic
for our trip. Like 3 more days.
Yeah. But it became somewhat of a...
That was a cool one. And the thing I also remember was constantly trying to find the internet cafes just to get your tastes for like an hour each day. And then you'd get like a good cappuccino. Which really makes a trip like that better in some ways, that you're not connected to a phone. It was pre that era. But we would always find an internet cafe roll through there. I think it was the trip. There were so many little things you remember from that. One, dropping into Rome, and we signed up for this campground, which for some reason had a high-level restaurant in it, had like an above-ground pool. It was a weird mix of stuff going on. And we show up at our tent. It's like 110 degrees in Rome, which is almost equivalent to Florida.
It was like a military-style tent, if I remember right. It was like this dark green tent, and it felt like we're paying for this because we could have set this up like right next door. But
it was really amazing that we just turned right around and went, do you have anything else? And they did, and we were able to get a camper. We didn't even walk into this tent. We just turned around.
Camper too. It was like you're walking around Rome, and this place is how many years old?
Yeah,
there's got history from whenever, hundreds and hundreds of years ago. And then on this campsite, we're like, can you just get us an upgrade? And they're like, yeah, they upgrade us. And it is literally a brand new camper RV style thing. And
with a bathroom, a shower. And
it's full amenities. It's like at a Scottsdale, Arizona type thing. It's like, oh, okay, yeah, this will work. It was
that was such a clutch upgrade because you had just hit your end.
I was at and
that was like the second place.
It was a very, I think it was an assimilation to that type of, for you did the planning, you knew what you were getting yourself into.
Sort of, yeah.
For me, I was, coming into it and, just going with it, and hey, you get to that point, we get to Paris, we're through Paris, and then we get down the train experience, and then we get to the next spot, and it's like, I wouldn't have been able to sleep in tents for 2 weeks, Yeah.
But. Well, and wasn't it that trip where we were, I'm like losing track of some of these trips. I remember us being in I remember us walking into Rome a lot. Or did we take I don't remember. We did
do the ruins, I want to say twice, but with our trip, it was like a 2-day experience in each city, right?
Yeah.
So it was Paris, Rome, Venice, Vienna, Austria, and I believe we did Munich and then Berlin on the way back to Paris, right? But yeah, I mean, some of the concepts I took away was it was basically 2 days per city. We should, as soon as we get to each city, we got to run down. We got to get a run in through the city square because there's no better way to see a city
that was amazing.
than with your endorphins screaming, right?
Runs.
So that was kind of a commonplace. And of course, Matt always left me in the dust because he was just always a naturally better runner than me. But yeah, you get those endorphins rolling. You go through the city square, and you can, if you sprint through it, you can really see a lot of things.
That was so cool. That was a great way to do it. Especially if you only have
48 hours to absorb things, But
I remember getting into Vienna at like 6 a.m. on an overnight train from Venice. It wasn't like an amazingly long trip. And they're just like, all right, we're here. And you're like, whoa, you're here. And you're like waking up, you're getting your backpack. And we rolled into and also you're going across cultures in a matter of hours. Like you're in a whole, because Vienna is really it's sort of the entryway to Eastern Europe. That was our really only Eastern Europe experience, but you can feel it. And you drop in. You can see it. Yeah, absolutely. The architecture, absolutely. All that. You drop in and your brain isn't ready yet, but it's got to be. And you don't even know what to expect. You don't know the language. It's like, remember Donka? It was we rolled into a place and we just had to, everything was about bread and coffee.
Right.
And we got some coffee, and I just remember walking around, and somehow we made it, because I can't imagine check-in to a hostel was any time. Well, they would let us kind of bring your stuff and drop it off there. But that had a cool one because it was like that. It was like a few rooms in this like old Victorian mansion or something. I'll have to get this guy soon.
Yeah.
And it was like there were 18 beds in one place, and somehow you're okay with that.
Yeah.
It's a weird kind of experience that way. Like today, I would never be okay with that.
Well, that's the thing, right? Is you kind of inherit a lot of leeway at that age to make those experiences,
Yeah.
And you can put me on pause whenever you need if you need to take care of him. But just the life lessons that you learn on that trip are really. I created coping mechanisms on that trip that I still use to this day, right? Like kind of getting back to my mental breakdown in Rome. I remember my cousin Matt just looking at me dead in the eyes and saying, listen, dude, It's never as good as it seems. It's never as bad as it seems.
I still use that.
I've taken that phrase with me my whole life, because, life hits you, man. And, one thing you got to remember is you're going to get in some dark places, but it's never as bad as it seems, and it's never as good as it seems.
It was very informative and instructive that way.
Yeah.
And just finding your groove in all these places, and finding your routine, finding the run, finding the coffee, realizing you can get to all the tourist things without needing a guide, like an actual person guide, and just how much you're able to get done. And I take so much from that.
I'm glad you did, because I did as well, and I know whenever we get together, few and far between, we always bring it up. And I haven't taken my wife to Europe yet, and she's never been, and it's on the short list, and it's got to happen. It's one of those experiences you have with someone that will last with you for the rest of your lives. It's the time of our lives.
I remember from Berlin, I don't know if you do, when we found that Dunkin' Donuts and we'd go there like all the time because it started to get late into the trip. I remember Munich too had the Starbucks.
Really?
That we would go to. Munich felt like
it's America.
America.
Yeah. It's like another city in Phoenix.
Yeah. I remember getting like a Starbucks. I remember sometimes we'd get like a Big Mac too, and you would just be like, oh.
Was it like a McDonald's / Starbucks, like they shared lease or something?
It probably was. But I remember going to this Dunkin' Donuts in Berlin, right around that main square, and there was an internet cafe upstairs, and the sizes of the coffees, their large was our medium. And our medium was there was still a large, an extra large, and an extra large if you were in America. Yeah. So you'd get a large and it was their medium, or it was our medium. And I remember the bees all over the donuts.
Yeah.
When we would go in, we're like, how is this person working
Where's
there?
There's
like 500 bees all around the donuts and everything. And we're like, well, let's not get a donut.
Yeah.
That's going to be crazy.
I did want a donut, but then given
don't do
given
it.
the environment that they're forced to
I have a bee crawler. There's honey all over that one. And we're back, Lou, after a 6-hour interregnum, I think the word is.
I'll take your word for it.
Yeah, we started this podcast at about, I've lost track of time when a baby gets up at 5, but I think we started it at about 7:30.
Yeah, more like 8. I think you texted me originally 7:30.
Wow.
But
and here we are
at 4. Get over here, so.
Here we are at 4. So we sort of ended on our European trip. I feel like we're doing an audiobook here.
Right, yeah.
Interview. The last part of that trip, which was kind of fascinating to me, I get home. I'm shot from this trip. I mean, it was a great trip, but I lost all this weight. I remember getting home and trying to go into the gym, and I didn't have any ability to like lift weights anymore. I lost too much weight. And I also remember getting home and eating 2 bagels, which is an absurd amount of bagels when you're talking about you're talking about New Jersey, New York bagels. But I remember actually having to eat up to get back to my playing weight. Yeah. And then I'm a couple days in, and then all of a sudden I'm like, oh, let's see how Lou's doing. And I call you, and you're like, yeah, I'm in Denver. What?
Yeah.
I mean, we're talking 3 days later after I got home, and you proceed to tell me what happened. I think this is a great one.
Yeah, I got held over. I was fortunate enough to have you plan the trip. And at that time, my mother was working for United Airlines. So pretty much everywhere I went was flying standby for either no cost or very little money to get pretty much anywhere you wanted to go, So my flight was delayed out of Paris at the very least one day. And then it was like kind of a slapshod putting it together for the remaining flights once I got back to the States as well. So it was an adventure in Europe and an adventure getting home from Europe at the same time too.
I just remember our last night when we were both there thinking we were leaving the next day. And it was just like a feeling of relief. It was a great trip, but it was like, we're getting home.
Yeah.
What was the punch to the gut when you had to turn back and head into, like you said, you didn't plan this.
Yeah.
And you have to head back, and the hostel just took you in again, I guess?
Yeah, they did. They gave me a little bit of a discounted rate for whatever no money I had left at that point.
Do you even remember what you did?
I have no idea. Yeah, no, I stayed at the Aloha for it was only one additional night in Paris. But after that, it was, like I'd mentioned, a couple different routes to get home after that. I forget at this point, to be honest with you.
It's like you got to get food, you got to get yourself.
Yeah.
It's craziness. That was just, I just remember I'm already ensconced back home.
Yeah. You're back into your daily New Jersey routines, and I'm sitting there, still eating French bread with jelly on it, French baguettes with jelly.
So the craziest thing, I actually did a podcast in between our two podcasts where I sort of talked about some things, and one of which was this weekend. Like, it's crazy that if this weekend doesn't happen, who knows when anybody sees each other.
Yeah.
But just making it happen, I think we already talked that it's like a sitcom dropping into houses with the Airbnb here. But I think after that trip to Europe, so I was saying on this podcast, we had like 4 months of intense daily, like a semester full of intense daily hanging out. Then we have the 3 weeks intense Europe.
Yeah.
And then 15 years, it was just the one time at the wedding. That's insane.
Yeah.
Doesn't it feel like it's not
that's pretty remarkable, right? That time goes by, and that's the thing about it too, is, at that point in our lives, we said it earlier, is the reverse retirement deal, And at that time in our lives, that was kind of like the trip to send us into official adulthood. You had just finished your bachelor's in record time, right? And I just gotten my 2-year degree in 4 years, right?
People go to school for 8 years. Yeah. They're called doctors.
Yeah, so that was kind of the trip to end all trips for us for a bit. So that was kind of fun.
Yeah. So in that time, you still continued to basically run restaurants.
Yeah.
For like 6 years after that?
Yeah, very long. I was with P.F. Chang's for a total of 10 years. Yeah. Nearly 10 years. But it was, several years, about 2 or 3 years in Scottsdale, another 3 to 4 years in Tucson, another 3 years in Chandler, essentially. But it wasn't until I got to Tucson, about 4 or 5 years into it, where I got into the hospitality management side of things. I was an hourly employee in Scottsdale, hourly employee in Tucson, until I went to management. And it was a 5 or 6 year career as a restaurant manager.
Well, weren't you sent to different locations to open stores up too?
Yeah. I did a little bit of training. I never really did like openings like that.
But you went to Long Beach or something, right?
I went to Newport Beach. I went to Las Vegas. I went to
Newport Beach,
all over Phoenix. It was more like guest management stints where, hey, we got people that are, too many vacations requested. Come handle the gap in management that we might have for this time, just to alleviate the brunt.
Those were like 6 week stints, though, right?
They were, yeah. Wow. Yeah, I think I spent a total of 6 weeks in, or 6 to 8 weeks in Newport Beach on a whole. So it was pretty interesting. I'll tell you, if you live in Newport Beach for that long,
that's where Kobe lives.
You do not want to You do not want to leave. No. So there was the discussion with the superiors of PF Chang's at the very end of that 6 to 8 weeks. Was like, how do I make this happen on a full time type of?
Head back to pay. And it's that would be a tough place to be able to pay your weight, though.
Man, you have to make $80,000 a year just to break even. So
yeah.
Yeah, it's a pretty expensive place, but it's beautiful. Yeah. Definitely.
So was it just like beach every day and then into...
Pretty much, if you've been in Newport Beach, it's, you're looking at the beach like on the ocean front, and there's like these little gold flakes in the beach sand, and it's just, it's a beautiful beach because the beach is absolutely beautiful. There's really no better way of saying it. It's like the beach itself is just, it's flawless. And the PF Chang's out there actually oversaw that it had beachfront tables, not so much on the beach, but they had you walk into their restaurant, the entire back wall is a glass window, and you can actually see and overlook the beachfront. And as a restaurant manager, you only have so many premium seats, right? And every restaurant has we want the tables by the window, or we want a booth by the kitchen, or when I was in Newport Beach, there was always a request for beachfront tables. I remember that as, hey, we don't have any beachfront tables right now. It's going to be an extended time frame to get it, and so on and so forth. So
what happened to PF Chang's? Like when we were in the time when I was in Phoenix, that was like the prime for PF Chang's, right? Like that was the moment for that place.
Yeah.
I mean, that was when all pistons were running, and it was just
first
the
10
best.
years. It was maxed out. Yeah.
And what happened to it? I mean, it's kind of lost. I mean, I'll go in and they'll still have the things I like. They don't do the things with the sauces anymore. They don't. They don't do. Yeah. There's so many things they don't know. And as it moved east, I think it lost some of its culture. I think it was bought by private equity, maybe.
I think it was. Yeah. It's bounced quite a bit, to be honest. They went public, and then they went private. I haven't been able to keep up with where they're at from now, to be honest.
When's the last time you ate in one?
My birthday 3 months ago.
Really? And not much, though? You don't go there much?
Well, one of my very good friends I've known for about 25 years is running PF Chang's in Mesa, which is 20 minutes from my house. Matt Softner. He's just a great guy. So he was a server and a food runner with me in my first location in North Scottsdale. Yep. And he has been with PF Chang's since there was PF Chang's. Basically, he's like a staple, and he's just he's the operating partner in that location. So
can people make a good living at PF Chang's?
Absolutely. At the top, you can. Yeah, and when I was there, they was pretty well compensated as a part of the management crew as well. Yeah, they had a very good management bonus structure in place that was based off of how profitable you are and how much you have. If the restaurant makes money, you make money. If you're running your liquor costs and your food costs in a tight manner, you get the benefits of those of the turnover. Like the bigger the tighter you keep your budgets, the more money you put in your own pocket.
MBA stuff.
Absolutely.
So, I mean, we're talking like six figures. Ththese guys can
the operating partners and the culinary partners. Yeah. For the assistant managements, you usually you could have gotten up to about 60, 70 grand a year. So,
and that's actually salary.
Yeah.
That's good with bonus structures. Yeah. What do waiters like? I know sometimes you got to pull doubles. You got to do this, but like, what is the best that a waiter ever got? Like, and you would do sometimes doubles for a week.
Yeah.
Like what is it's almost 90% tip at that point, right?
Yeah, but a lot of it depends on, it varies by state, right? Because different state regulations, you have different hourly wages, right?
Yeah.
Last I knew in Arizona, and this is quite a while ago, so I'd hate to quote prices I'm not familiar with.
But it was the heyday.
But it was when I was originally a hospitality manager, you were only required to pay people in Arizona $2.13 an hour if they were a tipped employee. And the thing about it, though, is the better the establishment, the more you make. The better shift you get in that establishment, the more you make.
Location,
so, I mean, you have folks, and that's the thing about it. You get a lot of foot traffic, you're going to be just fine, right? Mm-hmm. The reason I loved PF Chang's is there was always a lot of foot traffic. They were very smart and strategic about where they put it. Yeah, and it had kind of a natural pull to it. Mm-hmm. Great food, right? Great wine list, great a lot of things about it. But I mean, in the North Scottsdale location, you can make $100 a shift down at lunch. Wow. And you're done by 2. From 10 till 2 or for 10 lunch. Till 3 for a lunch shift, right? And I mean, that's not something you can say on that.
Go in, buddy. Sorry.
Okay,
Liam,
we'll see you in a little bit,
okay?
buddy. We will see you.
Liam, we'll be there. No, give his phone.
No.
Give his phone back. We'll be there in 1 minute, okay?
All right, buddy.
Liam, we'll be there in 1 minute.
That's just my coffee.
Jealous. Liam, come on. Let me have his glasses, bud.
Hey, I'm gonna come play with you in just a little bit,
Liam,
okay,
we'll be
buddy?
There in 1 minute, okay?
Remember, if you go inside, I will play in just a little bit.
Man, the jealousy of these kids. Unbelievable.
I know, right? Kids are fun.
We were just, I'll probably leave that in because that was interesting. Like, are we talking?
That was 4-year-old sabotage.
All the time, right? I mean, you just saw a normal thing right there, right?
Oh, yeah.
That's your household.
Absolutely.
You can't do anything you love.
Yeah, I hope you know that's normal, right?
They'll destroy everything you cherish.
With your first, it can seem like, oh my God, the world's crashing in around us, but that is 100% normal, and any parent will tell you that.
Yeah, it's like, geez. So you were saying you could clear $100 in a lunch in tips, and that's after sharing with the.
That's after share. That's your take home. Yeah, because there's a tip pool you contribute to. But yeah, I mean, and that's an average day. Sometimes it's more, sometimes it's less. Yeah.
And we were living in a place that was like $400 each, so like per month.
Yeah.
I mean, that was I always joke I was doing Blue Burrito Grill like 16 hours a week. You could more than cover your bases. Now, it probably gave you all the confidence in anything you'll ever do, running through that kind of job. Because you're like a salesman, you're a upseller, you're a financial
you got to learn how to talk to people, right? You got to sharpen the soft and the hard. You know, it's a lot of fun. You know, I kind of had the cheat codes because that's what my dad did. My whole life, my dad was running restaurants, so I kind of attribute a lot of what I naturally knew going into something like that to him. You know, but it was a great experience, though. I mean, with working with P.F. Chang's, the company that polished by the time I had gotten there, they were in business for almost 10 years. You know, and it was a good time, you know, and I really got a chance to look at proper restaurant operations and how to synchronize with them and how to get on the same page with everybody. So
it's still one of the highest level places of like an upper middle class type of feel. Like the experience, the vibe, the lighting, the food. I mean, it sells itself.
It still has that stigma to it, right? And it's kind of cool. We were actually on our flight here in the Detroit airport.
Oh, there was one there.
Walking right through, I'm like, how is there a P.F. Chang's in an airport now? And you see it like it's very commercialized now, actually. But somehow it still has
the cachet.
The cachet to get it done, because you're in the frozen food aisles. You're in, That's right. It's remarkable.
I still get the feeling going in. I mean, it's not the same, but it's still a great night.
Yeah, absolutely.
So you pivoted out of that because
I had taken a pretty strong interest in information technology, and coming out of P.F. Chang's was kind of a rough out, because you're with the same company for 10 years. It's like, okay, I get it. I'm supposed to be doing this.
Though, right?
Yeah,
you felt a ceiling.
I felt a ceiling, and one of my now best friends named Ryan Elder. He actually was working for a large data warehousing company, and he was one of my regulars at the bar at P.F. Chang's in Chandler. He
It's a great networking tool, by the way. Right?
My
Being
God.
a good waiter, bartender, or whatever.
Absolutely. And he was one of my regulars, and I told him, hey man, at that point I had already picked up the A+ certification handbook. And, no joke, Matt, I probably never read a book cover to cover in my life. And I read that thing cover to cover several times. And I had this feeling in my gut. It was like, this is what I need to be doing, moving into technology. But after my, 2-year degree, I really did not know, if you're going to invest $40,000 to $50,000 into an education, what are you going to study? And I wanted it to be some hard, concrete skills that I could take with me. Hey, buddy.
Liam, you want to sit here? Right? Come over here.
You like the tech, don't you?
Liam.
Say hi. Say hi, everybody.
Hey, buddy.
Hi, everybody.
Okay. Right, now we're going to go back inside until we're done.
We'll
be
there in a minute.
Boo-boo?
We'll be back in a minute, okay? Oh, boy. Brought to you by our sponsors.
Yeah.
Right here. Oh, man, we got weapons headed into the house here.
Yeah.
With umbrellas.
No.
Boy, that face. You see that?
Yeah.
Woo.
Face of an angel and the mind of a sinner, right?
They have those bumpers in radio that let you know when you're coming up against the brake.
Yeah.
This is like the living embodiment of that. So, I was going to say, the funny thing is, you remember that book? We both read it. I read it first, Confessions of an Unlikely Bodybuilder.
Yeah.
That was a great book. That's supposed to be made into an HBO.
Man, I haven't thought of that in a long time.
That was supposed to be an HBO series, I think.
Really?
Yeah.
Coming up, or?
I heard Mark Wahlberg was involved.
Interesting.
That was one of the best books I ever read.
Wow. Yeah.
Changed a lot. So you jump into that, and then you go to school for it?
I jump into that, and
it's a long process,
I go to school for it. Next thing I know, tailwind of events happened, and next thing I know, I'm at University of Phoenix online working out of my house. I had taken a step back from like full service food service management, and I thought, what can I do where I can utilize my skills? Because I was 28, 29 years old at this point, so I'm like, okay, I already have my feet both my feet in this career.
Yeah.
How do I get myself into something completely different,
It's
right?
very hard.
So it's very hard to transition, right? Especially when you're applying and you think you're a good fit for something, and people tell you absolutely not.
Yeah.
But I took a step back from the full service gig, and I got a job at Subway.
Which is a propitious moment,
Right?
Because that's where you meet your wife.
That's
right?
where I met my wife. Exactly.
So you needed that.
Within about 2 weeks of, they had a help wanted type sign in a local Subway in Queen Creek, and I applied, and I put, I was like, hey, PF Chang's for living here, blah, blah,
This was
blah.
a manager?
Yeah, this was just as I applied for the assistant manager. They said, okay, get in the system, see how it goes, and within 2 weeks I was the assistant manager.
Nice.
Within 2 months, they gave me my own store. Basically, and the first store I had was where they trained their brand new partners out of. Basically, it's like the research and development store. Very easy to manage if you can handle it. If you get down the basics, it's very easy to manage, right? I excelled at that, and then they moved me to the brand new Queen Creek Subway, which is right across the street from my house, essentially. And in walks the love of my life, applying for a job. I hired her almost on the spot.
Oh
yeah.
Did you know at the moment?
If you ask her, she tells the story better than me. I mean, it was love at first sight.
Wow. Okay.
Apparently my interview process consisted of me kind of auditioning myself to her as a potential mate. So
that's a new way. That's a new way to do it.
That's a new way to interview people. Yeah. But I kind of knew as soon as I laid eyes on her that I was in a lot of trouble. So
really, and that is trouble because you're in a hiring position.
Yeah, it was. But it's one of those things where, you get bat around in life enough, and you figure out what you really want, and you just got to go for it. That's really all there was to it. So
that's amazing.
Yeah.
And so okay, buddy, thank you. How long into that did you actually
I was with Subway. Did we start dating?
Yeah. That's a hard one, right?
Almost immediately.
Wow. Okay.
It was probably 4 to 6 weeks.
Wow.
Before there wasn't something going on, basically. But I'll be honest with you, I did fall in love at first sight, right?
Yeah.
But at that point in the game, it was, she is an employee. There were some, proper lines that were followed and things like that. But I made her an assistant. I mean, she came in and she made everybody look bad as far as working skills are concerned. She just has this natural work ethic, this all or nothing type, get in there, get stuff done. In a restaurant, you always want things clean. My dad used to say, neat, clean, and organized, and that's kind of what you want. And that is her to a T. She goes in and she just, any shift you ask her to knock out anything, she just gets it done, right? And when you're working with...
Well, that's a mom, right?
Well, yeah, that's the mom mentality,
learn multitasking.
right? Yeah. And when you're working with people making minimum wage, Subway employees, or anybody working for minimum wage, and anybody, I mean, we're hiring kids out of high school that are 15, 16, 17 years old. It's my first job, or it's people that 18, 19, don't have a lot going on, aren't going to really make that college move yet, don't really know what they want. So you have this hodgepodge of folks that are, you don't get folks that have that work ethic already. You have to sometimes, in some ways try to foster it or pull it out of them. And for her, it was just easy. It was like, I mean, I have an assistant manager currently that wasn't really listening and following up on the things I was asking to follow up on. So if you're not going to follow up on what I'm asking you to do, but this person is, it's kind of it's a likely switch to say she should be the assistant manager instead of this other person.
Wow.
So it was an easy call. It really was.
And now you had said, I mean, we know as you had said early on, like that she had children, and it's a big thing to take on. I mean, you're a very accommodating, nice guy.
I have my moments.
But that's probably a tough thing. But it sounds like it almost didn't even matter from the minute you. How
not really
soon did you find that out? Well, you probably find it out in the interview.
In the interview, I knew it. Yeah, absolutely. She's very upfront, very honest, and all that. And in my mind, I don't know what it was. It's just something in my mind that I didn't care.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I knew what I wanted, and I kind of went after it, but I mean, with kids, I'm not going to tell you there hasn't been challenges.
But you had like zero experience too.
Zero experience.
And so
with
like
kids.
you have to jump in and sort of fill a role that,
yeah.
I mean, they were younger, but there's resentment probably towards someone filling that role. So you have to do
that
while being learning on the job a little bit.
Yeah. And they had a dad in the picture at that time, sometimes when he was able to be, by on his own, accord, whenever he kind of felt like it.
Yeah.
He's kind of he's more in their lives now than he's ever been. But that was very much to the response of, if you don't do it, I will, basically. You know what I mean? So
that's not really your personality. Like take those things on like that.
No, it's not. You're absolutely right.
You got to push through your own comfort zones a little bit.
And it's different. It's very hard to explain. But when the woman that you love is raising kids and she needs, either help or she needs, anything, you just go get it and you make it happen.
Yeah.
That's really all it was, and with her, it felt natural.
Yeah.
With her, it felt like, it took years, for her kids to call me dad, right? Which personally I didn't ask for. I was perfectly fine being Lou, and
there's some onions getting cut up in here, huh?
Yeah, but it was one of those things where it just happened,
Wow.
and she is the love of my life, and she just so happened to have kids at that time.
Absolutely.
So,
good answer.
Yeah.
So you're at Subway a couple years?
Yeah, I was at Subway almost 2 years.
While you were at school?
Yeah, while I was at school. And
was school overwhelming? Was it above your head a bit?
It was doable.
Up?
No, it was doable. I mean, University of Phoenix Online. I'm not doing a online commercial for them or anything, but you can make it happen. If you have the will, they give you the tools to make it happen. It's essentially 2 to 3, long form questions on a topic per week, and then an individual project and a team project, similar to a lot of online setups. And as long as you can attribute time throughout the week to answering those questions, getting your project knocked out, and then contributing to the team in some way, that's all they're really asking for, right? And over that 2-year term with University of Phoenix, they put together that body of work, and they're 6-week classes. They were really remarkably easy. I actually had straight A's the whole time.
Look at that.
Yeah.
And you're now at GoDaddy. Were you at GoDaddy immediately after that?
I went directly from Subway to GoDaddy. Yeah,
and does University of Phoenix have a good, because GoDaddy's an Arizona company, right? So do they have a little bit of a connection there?
They're not in cahoots in any way.
At all?
No, they really don't. I found out after, I was just about done with my bachelor's degree when I got hired on at GoDaddy, and they did have a tuition reimbursement program, but it's if you want to work here and take on more classes, you can apply for that type of thing. And I think it was in like my last semester, basically. Yeah. So I was just like, I'll get paid off here sooner or later, right? It's student loans.
There's always a little bit of a game with the tuition reimbursement, because in the school I'm in, a lot of folks have tuition reimbursement, but they're given like up to say $15,000 a year,
right?
And that equates to maybe 4 classes. So you're basically going a class a semester. It's going to take you a long time. It's going to take you 4 or 5 years. Whereas if you want to double up, you're not going to be able to utilize that full reimbursement. So there's a little bit of a you want to move faster, I think, sometimes.
That's the thing,
so if you're
right?
in the place, if you're in the job you want, then it's great to do this kind of under the radar and use those reimbursements. But if you're using it to get to something you want, you kind of need to figure out
it's kind of a catch-22,
exactly,
right? Because you have to know where you're going before you get there, right?
It's the chicken and the egg.
Exactly.
So GoDaddy's a pretty huge company. They're
global.
The backbone of of much of the internet. They're Go back
Huge.
to all the Super Bowls, and nobody
Yeah.
has any idea what GoDaddy is.
Yeah.
But they got the celebrities. They got what's her name? She's dating Aaron Rodgers now.
Yeah. Pardon me. The race car driver. Danica Patrick.
And you're going.
Yeah.
And remember, they had all the years of boobs and all this stuff. And
You're
like, I don't even know what they do. No one knows what they do, but it's GoDaddy.
Right.
Interesting name too. What the heck's behind that name?
The name, the old wives' tale I've heard about it is it was a temporary name when they first got up because the domain name was available. So they purchased that and they set the business up on that as a temporary thing, and they caught fire so fast that they weren't able to change.
Isn't that funny that you have to buy the service
Right.
that you're then going to disrupt
Right.
the world with that service? It's kind of one of the interesting things. I always love this note that Amazon had their first meeting as a company in a Barnes and Noble.
Really?
Yeah, in like 1995 in a Barnes and Noble. That was where they had their. And who would think they would disrupt that entire company?
That's funny.
All those years later, and they're just meeting in a Barnes and Noble.
Plotting to overthrow the king.
Absolutely.
In his own quarters.
Absolutely. It's amazing. It's commerce for you.
Yeah.
So you get into GoDaddy. It's support, call support right then?
The first year was like general inbound calls, which is a mix of any product. It's, if you don't know what you want when you're calling GoDaddy directly, you go to general inbound, which is, you have no experience, you have a high school degree, and you want to get in the company. They'll hire anybody. You know what I mean? They really will. I mean, they're very. I shouldn't say it that way. They're very selective with their hiring process. We do have a great hiring team in place that, in my opinion, GoDaddy really nailed how to hire good people. And that's the most important part is they figured out the game. They figured out the industry, and they help invent, right? They figured out how to hire good people and just train them the skills that they need, and that's kind of the secret. The secret sauce with GoDaddy is hire good people. If they have a will and a drive to figure this stuff out, they will, because there's, GoDaddy.com/help. There's any article on how to do absolutely anything in the internet, to be honest with you.
That's true.
So
now would you say that GoDaddy's services, they cover you up to a certain point on the web,
right?
But you move up to certain businesses, and you still have to do things in-house the custom way, right?
Yeah. Well, and that's the thing about it is GoDaddy is and always will be a small business online solutions provider, right? They for small businesses, we'll help you get up and running, right? And I don't want to speak out of turn because we do have dedicated servers, fully managed dedicated servers. We have, e-commerce platforms that are we're very competent with, really, really nice, and they do the job just fine. But these are self-help products as well to some degree, to where if you don't have some kind of IT administrator in-house that's managing these products for you, you're going to have a tough time, right? Because we're dealing with, information technology. It's as much as we want there to be that one-click buy now and you're done type of feature on everything, this is the IT administration of your business. So you need people in charge of this stuff.
Is your business now.
Yeah.
There really isn't an line business now.
Absolutely.
Everything is there.
And if you're running a business and you don't have anybody that knows how to manage that web presence, you're going to be in trouble because
if you run a business,
competitors will.
Do you lock the door each night when you leave?
I'm sorry?
If you run a business, do you lock the door each night when you leave?
Yeah.
Do you usually have the door locked with maybe a person at the front desk?
Yeah.
When people are coming in?
Yeah.
Do your calls go straight through to the CEO?
Exactly.
It's all there, and so if you don't mind those things the right way, then you have a lot of problems. So you're in cybersecurity now, though, right?
I am. I'm on the website security team, which is it's more, I don't want to toot my own horn, but it's more expert level type stuff. It's login and getting development work done and server administration work done and things like that. So I've cut out a nice little role for myself. I did spend about 5 years with GoDaddy on the hosting support phones. So I know their hosting infrastructure fairly well, which gives me a leg up with what I'm doing right now, right? Because I always looked at hosting administration like kind of like networking, right? You can specialize in a lot of different avenues in networking, right? But hosting administration is either Linux or Windows, Apache servers, IIS, MySQL, MS SQL, PHP, Perl, Python, that type of stuff. Those back end technologies that only really smart nerds can understand. And it really spending 5 years in that community, I really got to know their infrastructure well. So there's really not a server at GoDaddy you can throw at me, and I'm not going to know how to manage the control panel, how to get to it from a command line in some way. But my new role kind of capitalizes on that skill set that I developed with GoDaddy, as well as the skill set that I developed in college, which is information security. So my current role is with the website security department, and I do SSL certificates, installation, proper website code. To if you don't have the proper
QA.
Code, for if your website doesn't have secure images, secure scripts that are being sourced, you're not going to get a green padlock. You're going to get a yellow one, which means that if I'm a hacker, I can actually interpret and try to insert code to your website because I know how it reads in clear text, right? So we basically install, we fix what's considered mixed content. Mixed content is if you have a secure site but you don't have secure code, we have to secure the code as well as the server, basically.
So a lot of investigation.
Yeah. There is a lot of investigation. Some of the stuff we'll log into tickets and we're done in 5 minutes.
Right.
And
so someone who doesn't really know what they're doing.
Right. Well,
low hanging fruit.
Other tickets can take days.
Wow.
And that's the thing about it is it's the same GoDaddy adage of, if you want to learn how these things are going to work and how to fix things, put the research in and figure it out, right?
Exactly.
And that's, anything you want to know about the internet is on the internet.
It's available. There's a million people. There's a million people who are in some forum on Stack Overflow or something. Who are going over this issue 6 years ago.
Yeah, exactly.
And then you're like, oh my God, I found it.
Yeah.
And then it dies right at the part where you needed to know. You're like, oh man, but you figure it out. You never go back and fill it in either.
Right. Well, you find something valuable, you add it to. We have a working knowledge base, and we have a working Jira system where we're, because we're also.
Are you guys agile? Is that agile methodology?
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay.
Absolutely.
I just got the Scrum Master certification.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Congratulations.
Thank you. About a month
That's
ago.
exciting. That's very exciting.
Agile's cool. So you do sprints and everything, and
well, our developers do. I'm not a primary developer.
Yeah.
But the really interesting part about my job is the automation side of it, right?
Yeah. I'll be there 1 second, Bob.
Just a second there, Liam, man. We're just getting into the good stuff right now. So, no, the really interesting part of my job right now is the automation that we're taking on. We have developers that are training. They call it a bot. They're training a robot to install
Machine
these
learning?
certificates.
Yeah.
Exactly. They're trying to get it to do the installs.
That's cool.
The mixed content fixing. And we actually take and we submit a sitemap to Google and Bing for you as well. This way, you're no longer indexed as an insecure site. They know you're a secure site after the fact. They're trying to get a robot to do it all, and 10% of the time it does. It does it every time.
Pretty cool.
It's
not a good enough percent.
It's getting better. It's getting better, right?
It's like nuclear enrichment. It's like from 10 to 90% is actually really close, whereas 0 to 10 is the hard part.
It's super interesting, though. It's for me coming on as I have zero development experience where I could put on a resume I was developing code, right?
Yeah.
But for me, it's very interesting because now I have that where I'm jumping into that type of role and really excelling. I mean, the server administration knowledge that I have has been very beneficial because I don't want to, there are certain analysts we have, they could fix the code, but they can't access the server.
Yeah.
And they don't know how to manipulate the server. And
you're a bridge
yeah.
connector.
Exactly. Yeah, exactly. And there's a lot of different things you can do in that type of role when server administration is very sought after, right?
And you get to work from home, right?
I do. Yeah.
How long has that been going on?
Just over 90 days. I just finished my first quarter. It's been super exciting. I absolutely love it.
Game changer? Did you ever leave the house, though?
Total game changer. It feels like I don't, no. But it also feels like I don't have to.
When do you take your first shower? That's always the problem.
This week or next week?
That's always the problem working at home. It's like 2 and you're still
last time you put on shoes.
You're still you're squinting going through code still.
Right?
Oh my God, I feel a little rank.
Yeah, exactly. No, it's a lot of fun.